Yossi, it's such a pleasure to have you here, and you guys will appreciate what I mean when we get to the end of the session.
You told me 45 minutes, it say 46 minutes and 6 seconds. Where you got the extra minute?
He doesn't charge for it. I think there's 46 minutes precisely to the drinks.
Okay.
So Yossi, we were talking earlier, and thank you, by the way, for being here in 2019, and it's great to have you back at King's Cross. But we were talking earlier about how many of these conferences that you choose to spend your time at. And as somebody who has been tirelessly working as an entrepreneur, as an angel investor, to circumnavigate the world, whether you were mentioning the MIT Solve event, or the most recent World Economic Forum, or Barcelona. I mean, this is like, for some people, they would say this is a full-time job.
Look, in recent years, I would say maybe the 6-7 years, I'm going to a lot of conferences, and also I'm doing or participating in doing a lot of conferences. I find it to be very useful, and I encourage the companies which I invested in to attend conferences, and the reasons, I think, are two and quite obvious. Number one, it gives you a good feeling that you have your hand on the pulse, and you can feel what is the spirit of the time, the Zeitgeist, what's going on, and then everybody comes with its own conclusion. But the second thing, which is very important, people are very keen about managing their financial capital. If you take a taxi from Heathrow to London and it charges you 10 pounds more, you feel very humiliated and very angry, etc. On the other hand, people don't care at all about their social capital, which I think is the one single most important asset that people can accumulate in their life. And these are the people you meet and keeping in touch with them. And in conferences, if you walk the conference in the right manner, you can refresh the social capital and you can build upon it, but you have to manage it. It doesn't, for most people, it's like revolving door. You meet somebody, you go through the revolving door, then he disappears, you disappear, you don't keep a touch. From the age of 28, I am very keen that every person I meet, I open in my Rolodex a line with the most essential the data of him, and I think going to conferences is the only way you can manage your social capital.
Your true social network.
Yeah, and it's more than network. It's at the end of the day, it's with whom you can collaborate, whom you can approach, how you build trust. These are the real things which differentiate and make an impact.
This must make you one of the richest people in the world.
In terms of many of the people I know, yes. But I told Alan, that in my advanced age, there are also disadvantages for it. I found that I became kind of world customer support. I get tons of people who know me with just all kinds of questions and wishes and things. So you have to spend your time a lot just answering people, and of course you cannot do everything which people ask you. So you have to find the ways how to get away with it without offending people. I developed a whole technique, but I'm not going to share it with you because number one, then when I send you an answer, you will see through it. And the other thing, I have no presence other than on emails and WhatsApp, because if I stick my head, I get a lot of customer support wishes, especially in Israel. Israel is such a small country that there is a social contract that you cannot tell somebody, I'm busy, I don't have time. It doesn't work. You have to do something in order to show allegiance, you know. So it's a whole discussion. This we should the details we should discuss next year, which probably will trigger you to invite me again next year.
Next year's panel. So Yossi, you're chair of a number of events, and 4 years from now is one of the brilliant ones, which runs.
I like the vibe. Go on. Go on.
and obviously you're visiting lots of other people's conferences. You mentioned the Zeitgeist. What is the overall Zeitgeist as far as you're concerned? What are the three things that you took away from that incredible tour?
Yeah, okay. First of all, what I'm going to say, all of us know 2022 is one of those years that the world is being turned upside down. If you like nature movies, there was in Netflix, you remember there was a big company called Netflix. Now it's a little bit smaller. They showed last year or 2 years ago a wonderful series about the ocean. And you remember this school you call herd of fish, you call school of fish,
yep.
Right? English is a very difficult language. For every collection of different animals, you have different word. And you was born with it, we had to learn all these names. So fish are schools. And birds are also schools.
It's a flock.
Flock. And cows.
Herd. And cats. No word because they are individuals. I mean, okay. It depends.
Okay, so you see this school of fish, which herring. You see 2 gazillion herrings going or moving very quickly, and then in a split of a second they turn immediately and go the other way. You don't understand how it happened, like all of them are being synchronized. Or you see the same thing with these wonderful pictures of sterling. Mm-hmm. This is the name of these birds. Mm-hmm. That in England you see them, like at dawn, you see them flying, millions of them, and then like there is a conductor, they change the view. So 2022, the world has done this maneuver. It went one direction and went back. So this is a year of a change. And most of the changes are not for the good. We had convolution of three things which look independent, but maybe they are. The burst of the bubble, the situation with in Europe with Russia and Ukraine. I'm sure you heard about it, even though you have done Brexit, and COVID. And these three things came together, and I can say that at least in Davos, the spirit was of a kind of gloom and doom, and to a great extent, rightly so. Prices of energy went up, the bubble burst, etc. So this, I think, was the tone in most of the places, and this was in great contrast to 2021, because 2021 was the year of unimaginable.
Imaginable, yeah.
In Israel, we had the total of IPOs, mergers and acquisition, was $84 billion for a country of 9 million people, and the sector of internet of 300,000 people, which was totally crazy. Now I have news for the people here. This was the 5th time I saw the bubble burst. I saw it in 87, and I saw it in 2002, and I saw it in 2008, and I saw it also in the 70s, I don't remember which year. And this is how it was, and this is how it will be. It will come back. It will come back. The world is like roller coaster. It goes down, and then it comes back. The only problem that when it comes back, it doesn't come back with all the players. Some of the players are being washed away. So on the short run, it's gloom and doom. On the other hand, if I can go into a little bit of philosophical thought, I am a product of the Second World War. I was born in 42. In 3 months, I will be 80 years old. And in 42, at that time it was Palestine, not Israel. They had to turn the lights in order to avoid the bombing of Italian airplanes. So I think my parents didn't have any other entertainment, and I was born in 1942 to a country which was very poor. Nothing was there. And I looked last week on the numbers in the world, not only in Israel, in the world of education, of poverty, of running water. Any measurement you look, the world have done immense advancement in the last 80 years, but it took 80 years. So what I'm trying to say, on the short, we have the short term, we have the long term. In the long term, I think things are really looking amazing. It's really but in the short term, so there will be ups and downs. And the key is how to survive and also how to make the best of it.
As they say, never let a crisis go to waste.
Yeah, that I think Churchill said it, no? Yeah, this is very true. And
do you have some specific advice from I mean, obviously you've been involved in
that's
probably
a
close
very good question.
100 companies.
If I didn't know that we planned it ahead and we said you are going to ask it, I would say how good question you ask. So, nevertheless, the one advice I can give from my experiences in the former burst of bubbles is that in the next 2, 3, 4 years, maybe 4 years even, cash is going to be a king. What is going to separate the people which will survive from the people who don't survive is cash, because you cannot pretend that you have cash and continue to pay the bills if you don't have cash. So right now, I would stick to cash. In 2000, at the bubble I had, I think I was invested in 24 companies. All the companies which didn't have cash were wiped out in matters of 6 months, 8 months, and definitely we didn't see the worst yet. We are going to see defaults, we are going to see companies unable to pay the bills, we are going to see people are unable to meet their commitment. It will create more gloom and doom. I read today about Celsius, that they wrote to their I don't know how many millions of users that they asked them to have patience before they see their investments. So cash is very important. On the other hand, companies which have cash will have great opportunities to do acquisition of companies which don't have cash. We are going to see a total restructure of the industry, much like we saw in 2000. So you say there are a lot of people which are seeing us online. So the people online, stick to your cash.
And when you think of cash, Yossi, do you mean businesses that generate cash, or businesses that have raised cash? Because at this event, particularly this year, we've talked about patient capital, long-term capital that's needed, especially for the energy industry and those substantial investments that won't generate profit or cash flow in the short term.
Look, if you can generate cash flow, that's the best thing. But a lot of companies raised money in 2021 and before, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. Now they have the cash bladder full, and when your bladder is full, you usually tend to pee it out. So you shouldn't do it. If you raise cash, stick to it, measure it against your cash flow, and try to manage it that it will be sufficient for 3 years. I want to mention to those people who are not aware of it that the bubble of 2000 burst in March 2000, but the nadir, this is how you call the opposite of peak. Mm-hmm. The nadir was in October 2003, which means it was like 3.5 years later, and only then it began to go back. However, after 15 years, in 2015, the Nasdaq arrived again to where it was in 2000. So if you have enough patience, and if you are not 80 years old, there are good chances that if you wait enough and you are not being wiped out, you will be able to see it coming back.
So obviously, if you've got the cash, hold on to the cash. If you're generating cash, that's brilliant. Any other advice for people going into this? I mean, as you said, you've seen this situation 5 times more, maybe in your lifetime.
My advice, first of all, why you should listen to my advice are much better people. That I think there is a wonderful little book called Short History of Financial Euphoria by Kenneth Galbraith that you can buy in Amazon. So I suggest you buy the book. It was written maybe 40 years ago. Of course, it's still relevant. And there is another fantastic book, which is called Extra Popular Delusions and Madness of Crowds. It was written by a guy by the name of Charles McKee in 1851. And Bernard Baruch said this is the best book he ever read. You can buy it in Amazon. Extraordinary Popular Delusions and Madness of Crowds. And it speaks about fads, bubbles, etc., etc. And you go to history of the bubbles, you get to the South Sea bubble and to the tulip bubble from the 16th century. Bubbles are with us as long as we remember, and they will continue to be here. The problem, you don't know when they are coming and when they are going. That's the main problem. You know what Warren Buffett said about the bubble in 2000. He said, everybody knew that at 12 o'clock, the clock will, midnight, the clock will ring and the carriage will become a pumpkin again at 5 minutes to 12 o'clock, but who want to miss the last 5 minutes of a great party?
Well, and you said the market peaked in 2003. So do you think the market?
No, the market peaked down. How you call peak down?
It corrected.
Corrected.
Yeah.
Dived.
Yeah, from 2000 to 2003.
Yeah.
So just changing topics for a second. When you were here last time, you said...
No, I'm not responsible to what I said 3 years ago.
One thing you
now
said
he's
is...
going to find all the things I said which were wrong.
I want to talk... Not at all. I want to talk about the global perspective, because one thing is obviously and the bubble in the markets right now, but then there's obviously geography and what's going on in China versus Europe, Israel, America. And you made this wonderful observation that the future of Europe is a museum. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, now you are reminding me. Yeah, I said what Europe is excelling is what Europe is doing the great in the world is museums. You know, British Museum, Louvre, Prado, the Vatican Museum, etc. So the future of Europe is to become big museum for the Chinese. I'm not sure that it's true for 2022 because they're not traveling. You know, all of them are locked at home. I would like to make one correction. Before the COVID, I attended few events in East Europe. And I was really impressed, by young people in obscure countries, excuse me, I don't mean, no, that was a wrong, totally incorrect word. But I was in Ukraine, I was in Romania, I was in Estonia, I was in few other countries. People are waking up in the morning and they go to work. They are not going to complain. They are going to work, and they are putting a lot of Slovenia. Yeah, Slovenia is a very lovely little country. Somehow they have the advantages of Italy and Austria. They took the good parts, not the bad parts. I was in DLD. Maurice Levy presented. He brought a company from France, and he said, these guys have the French creativity and the German precision. I said, this is good, but what would happen if they had the German creativity and the French precision? Then you run into a problem. Yeah, but in East Europe, you still see there this kind of healthy energy of people who want to succeed, who want to achieve, who want to accomplish. West Europe is, I'm not suggesting that people here are not working and not doing great things, but somehow it looked to me more, I don't know the word, maybe not conceited, but less motivated, or maybe less hungry, not less motivated.
Less hungry, maybe, yeah, or relaxed.
Other than Charlie Muirhead, who looked to me always that he want to drink the whole world.
So in that context, and it would be great, especially with the different events you've just been to understand the context of China, especially in the technology industry, Europe, the US, obviously Israel's role. How do you, see that playing out? And I guess, what does Europe need to do and other countries not to become a museum when it, with respect to technology?
Look, you have so many great leaders in Europe who are unable to fix it, and you ask me what they should do in order to fix it. Who am I to suggest? I think, in some places, you look what Macron has done to develop the high-tech in France in the last 7 years. I think it's quite impressive. So maybe this should be an example.
In terms of state funding?
In terms of, first of all, the funding is second thing. The number thing is to create the passion and the motivation with the masses. If you are able to ignite the passion, then the people will work. Otherwise, you can go and just spread money over them, and nothing will happen. You need to start with talent and with passion, and you have to ignite it. And this is the role of leadership. This is what differs leaders from managers, if they are able to ignite their followers. Regarding the world, until the COVID, I was, first of all, I have to say something. I'm sitting here and talking to you very authoritatively. Why don't you ask me, Vardi, tell us a little bit about all your forecasts, which were proven to be totally idiotic. And then we can talk. So don't take what I'm saying too seriously. But these are my impressions. I was of the opinion that China already won the world race. If you look on the numbers and the trends, you can see that either number one, and if they are not number one, it will take them 6, 7, 10 years to reach. Right now, they had setback because of the COVID and because of the way they administrate COVID. But I still think, that they have a lot of momentum. They have now, for the first time, a huge middle class, which can spend and which is spending not in the last 2 years. They have a government which set targets. They wanted to have until 2025 70% local content of whatever they do, and 2035 100% local content. I'm not sure they will meet the 70, but if it will not be 70, it will be 60. So they are moving ahead. They are moving ahead while the rest of the world is not exactly so determined and not exactly so passionate. And if you look on the global picture, you always come to the question of Africa. There are today, I think, 26 active conflicts. Conflict is defined as two countries which are not in good relation, and then people are being killed. And most of these 26 countries, the 26 conflicts are either in Africa and the Middle East. So this thing also should be somehow fixed, not that I have any idea how to do it.
You mentioned passion and Macron. Was there something specific you think he did to get to kind of get that passion rising in France?
Yes, I know that he in 2000, when he was Minister of Finance, he came to the conclusion that he has to drive France into the high tech. I know about some of the things he have done, like this F-Hub, this is how it's called, where they have 1,000 startups, and he mobilized the friend of Alan Greenberg. Alan, raise your hand. This is Alan Greenberg. This was a cheap promotion for Alan Greenberg, and his friend, he nominated his friend Pascal Kegny to bring high-tech companies to France, and Maurice Levy is involved in it. And the key, I think, is you don't resolve these things only by budget. You resolve it by budget, but the number one by far is the passion. I'm being asked when I have done a lot of investments, I was asked how I select where to invest. And I used to have kind of standard answers. I didn't appreciate business plan because I say that business plan and sausage are being consumed only by people who don't know how they are being made. And I always look to people which were very talented but passionate. Passion is the most valuable. I would say the following: if you meet somebody who is both talented, passionate, and nice, hire him, even if you don't know why. You hire him and you tell him your role now, number one, is to find how you can help the organization. So if he's a decent guy and passionate and talent, this is a win. And so when you are running a community or running a country, if you have passionate people, that's the key. And you have to ignite the passion. Sometimes the passion is being latent.
Latent, yeah. Latent,
okay. So if you are a leader and you can ignite and motivate your people and make them passionate, then people are working on passion much more, 10 times, 20 times more than they will work on financial incentives.
Well, let's switch tracks to somebody who's extremely passionate. Do
you think they hear us because they sit very kind of
they're relaxed? We're going to throw them the mic in a second and let them ask some questions.
I think they don't understand my accent or something like this. Or maybe it's much too late after lunch, so they are half sleeping. Or
I think they're quite comfortable.
Yeah,
and they're enjoying themselves. Alan, I'm going to come to a question in a second. I had a question for you because obviously,
go ahead.
Yossi, you're credited, or you and your team are credited with inventing instant messaging.
Not me. I just gave the money.
The team,
I was Forrest Gump in this in this business. Yeah.
maybe a bit more than that. And ICQ went on to be bought by AOL, became Instant Messenger. And if you look at where that's evolved to, whether it's all the social networks, pretty much Facebook, Twitter, and so on,
so
it's pretty amazing.
You want to ask me if I'm frustrated or if I'm proud?
I want to know if you sold too early. I want to know what you think about Elon Musk buying Twitter.
What I think about Elon Musk? Why do you think I think about it?
I don't know. It's a pretty interesting.
Look, Elon Musk is a big mystery for me. I never met him, I have to tell you. My son already bought 2 of his cars and is very happy. And why you want to buy Twitter? God knows why you want to buy Twitter. Look, Twitter is a big broadcasting network. You know, with all the things which are coming, I guess, you know, by the fact that you want to buy, that you want to have some kind of influence, or I don't know.
Well,
how it is as an answer, I don't know.
Honest,
okay. Not useful, but honest. Okay.
I think it's obviously amazing to see where that technology has led us, and there's no question it's obviously changed the way we all communicate, but it hasn't replaced getting together in person.
I have to tell you that when these 4 Israeli kids which invented instant messaging came to me, I thought this is totally idiotic idea. I told them, why anybody will want to type if he can pick up the phone and talk. Apparently, I guess that I was mistaken. But
so why did you give them the money? Because they were passionate?
No, because one of them was my son who never finished high school, you know, and being a Jewish mother, you know, I'm gender-wise and I'm a male, but, sex-wise, but gender-wise, I'm a Jewish mother, you know, so I had a guilt feeling that because of me, he never finished high school, and I had to compensate it. So I gave them the money, I kissed in my mind the money goodbye, and then after 18 months, AOL came and bought us. And what I realized at that time, that nothing is improving overnight your IQ as much as selling your company to a big American company. So immediately overnight, from kind of a weird guy, I became eccentric. I don't know if you know, eccentric is the privilege of only the people which are economically comfortable. And I'm being invited to talk in such conference like CogX, etc.
Well, I'm sure you had a healthy influence in the success of that business, and obviously it changed the world for good and for bad. I think there's lots of people who look at messaging and how much time people are spending online as a problem.
It is a problem. Not the spending of the time, but what happened with this huge echo chamber. It is a problem. We know it is a problem. You know, you cannot deny it. Not so much the messaging, you know, but the whole phenomena of these major broadcasting facilities, which are not necessarily curated, etc., and fake news, etc. It was discussed too many times. But there is a problem, and the world doesn't know how to wrestle with it.
So at least you and Elon agree on something.
Maybe.
Just before we hand the mic to the audience, what are you most excited about? Because we've talked about the markets crashing. We've talked about maybe that there's not as much passion in Europe or other countries as there could be or should be vis-a-vis China and other markets that are taking off. What's exciting you, and where do you see light at the end of the tunnel?
Okay, you know, in Israel we say that the light at the end of the tunnel may be very well from the lights of the train which is coming in your direction. But I tell you the following. First of all, if you want the gloom and doom, you can also add to the list what happened to democracy in the last decade, etc. But I think the hope, I remember 31st of December 1999, when all of us were glued to the television to see Times Square in United States, in New York, the counting down for the start of the new millennia, which was not exactly the start of the new millennia, because the start of the new millennia was 1st of January 2001, not 2000, but 2000 is a better time, so the world decided that it will celebrate the new millennia at that time. And all of us were with great hope, that the internet just evolved at a very naive way. Ralph, when did you invent the ringtone for cellular phones? Before 2000 or after? 97. So we already had the ringtones that Ralph Simon cut a little bit of dividend per each tone, and we knew that the internet is going to resolve all the problems. And as I mentioned before, you looked back, and really the 20th century was an amazing century, in democracy, the world was peaceful after Second World War, education, GDP of the world, running water, as I mentioned, poverty, etc. Then you look what happened in the next 20 years. Some of these promises were materialized, some of these promises were not materialized, and eventually, even after this book of the end of history, you saw that things are not so well. But I think on the long run, not me, I'm going to say to all of you goodbye. I don't know, in 8 years, in 12 years, in 4 years, who knows? But I think my kids and my grandchildren are going to see really a very bright world, unless all of us press the wrong button, and blew all of us together. I think the long run prospects are good, but the short run, you always have problems in the short run. But my total view is optimistic, but I'm optimistic. Being optimistic is not what I learned, is not based on facts. It's based on attitude. But I think technology, if it's being harnessed to good things, we can see very, very good things. On the other hand, there are things to deplore. In my country, we have this conflict with the Palestinians already for 55 years, and we are unable, not us and not the Palestinians, to pull ourselves together and to resolve it. And this is one conflict from out of, as I say, 26. You see how much money the world spent on ammunition, and you ask yourself why they don't spend 1% of it on peace. So there is still a lot of work to be done. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Do we have our mics at the ready? Brilliant. Jen, there's a question here from Alan at the front.
Thank you both for this conversation. I retain a level of optimism, but I want to ask you both. In a post-COVID world, it strikes me that there are two words in particular that come to mind. One is impact, and the other one is trust. You two gentlemen do more to drive that impact and trust than anyone I know. If you just think about the numbers of people you engage with. Charlie, a few months ago, you were on this stage, you were talking about the impact of CogX. I think it would be interesting to repeat some of those numbers here today. Yossi, you've had responsibility for driving conferences, engagement. the impact you have, the numbers of people you touch, the influence you have is beyond anything that most people can actually imagine. And the point I'm trying to make to you is that I think that what you both do is to drive conversation. You drive the opportunity for people to meet at your events face to face, to exchange ideas, exchange philosophy, to exchange opportunities. And I think it should be recognized by all of us here in this audience and by a greater audience, quite the impact of the both of you. So my question to you is, maybe it's not the right time or place, but I'd like you both to express some sort of parameters, quality, quantitative data, of the number of people you touch and the impact you have on society.
First of all, I need to invite you to my funeral, you know. I think you can say some great things. Not true, but will impress the audience, I can tell you. Let me tell you one thing about the impact. You know, this question is require that I will expose myself to more than I would say, but I had a very nice chat to the gentleman next to you, who is a successful entrepreneur from India. I hope you don't mind if I will repeat. No, I'm asking him. You decided he doesn't mind. Okay. But we spoke, you know, about what you do in your life. So I don't think the number of the people, this is what is count. I think what is count is the message. And one of the messages that I share with young people, you know, I do a lot of events with young people. And again, now I will sound like a preacher, you know, I never thought I will become the Jewish version of Billy Graham or something like this. And I'm not aspire. But I think regarding an impact that everyone should do among the basket of things you are doing, one thing which is greater than himself. You know, like what I mean? I mean, what you can do to take something and improve, which is not business, which has to do with people which usually are less fortunate. Yourself, if you are able to do something which is bigger than yourself, then you alleviate yourself and you alleviate the people that you are in conversation with to do good things. Can be in education, can be in society, can be in whatever. But I think everybody in his agenda should take responsibility to do one thing which is bigger than himself, and that way, and by the way, one of the benefits of the internet, you know, the internet unfortunately brought inside or along or together with great things, it brings also many problems which we discussed, but one of the great thing about the internet that you can find like-minded people and motivate them. I think that, for instance, these 17 development targets of the UN, whatever will come out of it, there is a lot of conversation, also some deeds. I'm sure the conversation is bigger than the deeds, but without the conversation, the deeds wouldn't happen, and without the internet, the conversation wouldn't be as wide as they are. So between the internet and the answer to your question, I think the impact can be done if people will want to do something which is bigger than themselves. This is my answer, but you were asked also, Charlie, so now you have to answer this question.
I think it's a great answer, actually. Anybody who knows the history of CogX knows that this event hasn't made money for 5 editions prior to this one. And we always did it because we cared deeply about the sense of community that we're building around bringing people together. And honestly, I think you've summed it up, Yossi. the joy of seeing people come up to you either a day later, a month later, in some cases 3 years later, and say, I raised my first round, or I won one of your awards, and so on, is incredible. I don't have the total metrics to hand. I know last year, nearly 1 million people watched the content after the event, and we think it'll be more this year. But for every entrepreneur that comes up and says, I met my co-founder, or I've raised my first round, or we just went public, it's been amazing. Of course, I've made lots of mistakes along the way, like I should have invested in every company that won an award at CogX, because the portfolio is looking pretty good. It's been a great honor to be able to convene so many great people.
By the way, I have to say that I think in that respect, the most joyful feedback I get is from how many people tell me I met my wife on ICQ. I think I should. On
ICQ, okay.
I should make a convention for all the babies which were created through ICQ, by arranging their parents to meet with each other.
Well, I only know of 3 marriages through CogX so far, but
okay, it's a good start.
Very good. Thank you, Alan. Any other questions from the audience? At the back there.
But please present yourself.
Hi, my name's Elliot. Thank you for the discussion. Someone just touched then on metrics, and we've kind of darted around a bit. I just wondered, in your eyes, what are the important metrics that we should be considering?
What the important
metrics we should be considering in a particular area, or Elliot? In life?
I suppose in artificial intelligence and how that relates to our lives. I mean, you've talked about impact, but I suppose I'm wondering what kind of impact is important.
That's a good question. It has to do with your value system, etc. To my mother, the most important metrics was how many of my cousins are doing better than me, and how many are doing less better, and not in terms of finance, but in terms of academic excellence. She always complained that all my cousins are smart and I'm the idiot of the family. And she explained it that all my cousins are not contaminated with the genes of my father, and I am contaminated.
Is that the answer you're expecting? Any last question before we wrap up for today? Here at the front? No? We have one more question here at the front.
Thank you, gentlemen, for a riveting discussion today. Yossi, I have a question for you, actually. Earlier when we were chatting, you spoke about culture. Right now, you spoke about values and value systems, and you made a reference to your mom and maybe academic or maybe success in life going forward, and you impressed on the importance of how a lot of these things are very cultural, and value systems are also very cultural at the end of the day, and that's what keeps us grounded as human beings. But with this explosion of exchange of ideas that messaging or the internet has kind of brought about, culture has also become very fungible today. And as a result, also started to become slightly questionable as well with generations as time moves on. So how do we kind of preserve the authenticity of culture and value that generations have seen while growing up with these new generations and set the right example for them?
I think that's a terrific question. First of all, as we discussed, why in Israel we have this huge amount of startups and this burst of innovation, and I suggested that it has nothing to do, or not necessarily all to do with budget or serving in the army or great schools, but first of all, it's a question of culture. And culture is, as I think they say it in your country, that culture is, or character is destiny. And this is and really you are right that the internet in some respect is equalizer, but on the other end you have this global and local, and I think it's a very valid question how you maintain the good things of the different local cultures, and not dilute them. Yesterday I had a problem with my reservation for the hotel. They canceled the reservation yesterday night. I arrived this morning and they canceled it unilaterally. I called the customer support, and there was extremely nice guy, and he was sticking with me like for an hour trying to help me. And the hotel is London. I was sure that he's an Englishman. And I told him, you are so nice. From where are you talking to me? He told me, I'm talking to you to Canada. I said, okay, let's explain. The Canadians are this kind of people that when you step on their foot, they say, I'm sorry, not you. So that's a good question, but I don't think we can find the answer after they write to us, time remaining wrap. They want us to wrap the meeting. So we will, I'm afraid, leaving this question as require further discussion for next year.
For next year. Did they sort out your hotel?
No. I had to go I had to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning Israel time, and at 12:30 at night I had to find another hotel. In the beginning I thought I will call you at home but then I decided that I'm not going to train you to be a customer support because I know the feeling. So
Yossi, on that note, and thank you for the questions, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back here again. And thank you for making the trip and being here with us, and looking forward to spending more time with you tomorrow.
And congratulations, for putting this great event together. And now I'm going to do a poll among the audience.
Be my guest.
Charlie is thinking to change the venue. I'm not going to tell them where, but to go into a conference center or to continue to do it in this urban open area. What do you people think? What he should do next year? Move it to a conference center or continue to do it here? Who suggests he will go to a conference center? Raise your hand.
Exactly. I can't get into the details of that without disclosing stuff. But this is a question actually we are going to put to the community.
Yeah. Who is for conference center? Raise your hand. Who is to stay here?
Center,
who is to stay here? So it goes like the three people like to stay here, 1 to move, and 20 don't understand my accent.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for being here at the Leadership Summit. Thank you, Yossi. And on that note, let's go and enjoy some drinks at the Leitman.